There are thousands of DOS games. Most of them are terrible. I play one selected at random with a 20-minute time limit and record it live. This is the result. Picture the scene. You're tired, you're cold, and you're not on the Russian front. No, you're sat in a bedroom, recovering from illness, and you've decided you're going to record some gameplay. What game do you pick? Something simple, something easy to understand? Or do you pick an obscure war game from the 1980s? Hello and welcome back to another Random DOS Game Show. And this is Napoleon in Russia, which is a war game. Now, war games are essentially similar to the tabletop version. They're almost like a conversion. Some of them are conversions of tabletop games, and others are original. And I don't know what this is, but you have a selection of scenarios here that we can scroll through using the arrow keys. And we hit enter to begin. And these are various scenarios depicting Napoleon's attack on the Russian front in the 1800s. There's a specific subtitle to this game that I forget the name of, but it was a sort of decisive part of the conflict, and I believe historically speaking Napoleon lost, but this gives you the opportunity to decide otherwise and see how it plays out. So we'll hit enter to begin. And we've got a series of other options here that we can change. So, let's see. We've got computer opponent, yes, C, no. So you could do a sort of round robin approach to this if you had somebody else who was very enthusiastic about war games. You know, they could control the Russians, you could control the French. Nice, easy difficulty level. And you can also specify the toughness of your units. So the Russians are weak, the French are normal. Doesn't appear to be a strong option. And these two effects here, certain players of strategy games will know this. Morale and fatigue. Now, in the total war games, which are similar to war games but are different, the hint is not in the name. Morale is how the unit is feeling. Like, if they're positive about the scenario and they believe, hey, victory is on the cusp of being achieved here, then they'll fight better. If they have poor morale, then they're more likely to break ranks and desert and just generally make a pig's ear of things. Fatigue is similar. You know, if we turn fatigue on and we keep asking more and more of a unit, then eventually it's going to be like, yep, I'm knackered, I can't continue doing this. So we'll hit enter to specify that we're done, and we're in the assault. So this is the map screen, and we can press F3 to see our units. So there's the units added, and different coloration to show the different units, presumably, with regards to the teams. You'll see in the bottom left-hand corner there's some hiding in the trees, and at the top there's some by the rivers there. At the top you have the date and time, and I believe there's some coordinates there. So if we hit F1 to start the game, the battle begins. Now, at the bottom it says 407 secs per turn. So that means how long the computer, I believe, can take before it decides what it's doing. So the battle is playing out here, and you can see shots being fired and stuff. Now, I'm not entirely sure how to control this. I only skimmed the manual, but everything is happening in, I guess you could say, real time. but it's not. It's a sort of sped up, depending on how quickly or how slowly you want to play it. And it's a very sort of contemplative thing. A lot of war games were turn-based. I think there was a fella called Gary Rigsby, was it? Something like that, who did a series of war games that were well received by CGW and the like back in the day. And this is very much an attempt from somebody else to be like, hey, I want to make a war game and have it play out like that. You'll see certain regiments of the Russians, I think it's the Russians, doing things there. But ultimately, I don't know how to control this. F3, save game. To save game, insert formatted data diskette. That brings back memories. So the function keys do things. But I've hit the other oh. I think I ended the game. Well, if nothing else, we'll have some nice PC speaker music at the start now. But honestly, it's one of those where you need to read the manual, the 100-page long manual, in order to make a determination as to what to do. It's not very intuitive. Like, I'm scrolling around, you can see the area that I'm controlling with the keys. Now, I hit the space bar there, and that tells you about the unit, and I believe you can move that out. So let's shift that over there. So we've given them orders, I believe. I wonder, can you stack? Let's bring you guys out from the forests, and we'll have a brief look, just a brief look at what it's saying here. So, French cuirassiers, 5th ICAV, I think that's infantry cavalry, 1,000 cavalry, 8 guns. The morale is high and they're feeling fresh. So, they're ready for battle. I think there's a series of shots that have been made. There have been no fatalities, and I would probably need to speed things up in order to show much more than this. But it's one of those exceedingly niche games where you know exactly the sort of person who would enjoy it. A wargaming enthusiast, a tabletop wargaming enthusiast. See, if I click that, you'll see the move is already there. Oh, they're Polish, they're not French. So if I hit that, you see a little red dot beyond the trees there. The Polish are going to come out of the trees and just shoot the Russians. While the French here, I wonder, can we just shift them up a bit to take like the bulk of the Russian assault? And there's also information on the terrain. If you hit the terrain, stream 2, stream 3, and then what's up here? A bridge. So we would be fording that stream if I knew how to proceed, which I don't. But yes, that's a very, very poor and swift playthrough of Napoleon in Russia. What is it? It's a top-down war game from the late 80s, which was inspired by earlier war games of the time and tabletop war games. And if you're a fan of war games, then it's a perfectly competent creation. It's not going to wow anybody or be considered one of the classics. But if you've somehow not come across it before and you have a passion for late 80s war games for DOS, then here's another one. For everyone else, there's going to be little to no appeal, including me, who is entirely unsuited towards playing war games. But hey, I have to play all DOS games, come rain or shine, in sickness and in health. And if you like me talking about random DOS games, I do it all the time. Feel free to take a look at the hundreds of other videos on my channel. If you like what you see, you can always subscribe. And if you can figure out how to march Napoleon through Russia victoriously, you're probably one of my clever and informative wargaming patrons. Look at those great names. Wonderful people. So I didn't really give that great a showcase of this game, but it's more a case of me displaying that it's there. It's like, look, here, a war game. Do I know how to work it? No, not really. Do I have the time and energy to read through 100 pages to figure out how to? No, not really. But if you're that way inclined, here it is. Until next time.